It's a cold, rainy day here in Uganda, so I got my jumper on and we're staying warm. Most people always ask me, like, Nate, is it hot in Uganda, Africa? And most of the time, I say no, it's not. It's actually very comfortable. So for those on Fahrenheit, basically the temperature never really gets colder than, I would say, 68, and it doesn't get hotter than 85. Like 85 here would be a really hot day. People would just be like, even the locals would be complaining like, it's so hot. But on average, it's typically between 70 and 80 degrees. That's typically what the average temperature is. But that's besides the point. We're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about going deeper into your Dream 100 list. Now, in a previous video, I talked about the importance of having a Dream 100 list. Russell talks about that in his material. And also, I mentioned this in the previous video where I said you need to build your list, whether it's friends and family and or referrals. But today, I want to share with you something that's pretty important about going deeper. Like, what do you do with that list? And I just got off the phone with a buddy of mine, and I was actually standing outside. We were talking, and I was telling him that he needs to tap the list he already has. Now, it's funny when you're swimming in your own swimming pool, not physically swimming, but when you're in your industry, sometimes you don't see the opportunities that are staring right in front of you. Sometimes you're already in something that you don't see the possibility or potential right there in front of you. So it takes someone else, like a coach, to help examine that and see the opportunity. So that, fortunately, I've been blessed with not only strategy and seeing these types of opportunities. I share them with people and with clients when they tell me, like, this is my situation, this is what's going on. And then I give my recommendation and they're like, whoa. So I want to share with you an aha moment, a wow moment, okay? A GOV moment. If you don't know what a GOV is, check the previous video. I shared a GOV moment with my buddy, and he was telling me his, unbeknownst to him, his list of contacts and who he has. Now, he has the top companies in Uganda in his Rolodex. Like, he's been hired by them, he's already been paid by them, he has contracts with them already. But the goal that he is having is to expand his reach outside of Uganda. Okay? So how do you do that? Like, how would you expand your list? Anytime you're trying to get to a new market or a new audience, you can even do this, by the way, with clients you don't even have yet that you want. Okay, so what I'm about to share with you is how can you get clients to come on board with you just by seeing the reputation you already have. Okay, so like I shared, my buddy already has a reputation in the industry, but he's now expanding that reputation. So here's what I say, and I'm going to share it two ways. Actually, no, I'm going to share it one way, and you can apply this both ways. Okay, if you don't have any clients yet, what you can do with your Dream 100 list or your list of potential clients. And by the way, I keep pointing down to the Dream 100 list because I'm going through Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson. I'll put the link in the description. You can get your book from there. And I mentioned this in a previous video. So it's important, if you're following along, check the previous video, get this book, and it references the Dream 100. You can learn more about the Dream 100. I think it's on page 60 or something like that. Anyway, so when you have your list, okay, that you're contacting, what I strongly recommend is you take your top 3 ideal clients that you want to be working with. Like most people would know them in the industry. Most people would know the name, they would understand the brand, they know what's going on. Now, your top 3 doesn't mean they are the top 3 well known, okay? So it means like it would be your favorite top 3, okay? So for example, if I was to take the coaching personal development space, we know Tony Robbins is the number 1 in the coaching space, okay? That doesn't mean if you're in the same space, you're going to go direct to Tony Robbins, right? It doesn't mean like, even though he's number 1, that's in your top list. Actually, you're going to be doing just the opposite. What you want to do is find the 3 people that maybe you enjoy, that you would want to partner with, that you would rather align with. And here's what you want to do. What you want to do is find a way. You take your skill set, you take what you're great at, what you're amazingly good at, and you give it to them as a GOV for free. Okay. In exchange for either a testimonial or the rights and permission to share with your next clients or audience that you have worked with that person. So I'm going to give you an example. I'll go super high level. Let's say Tony Robbins. Okay. So my background, I have a variety of backgrounds, but let's just say sales. Okay. So I've trained many salespeople over the phone, call centers, high ticket sales, how to close anything from $1,000 to as high as $150,000 over a telephone in sales. So, and I know Tony Robbins has courses and coaching programs that are pretty much high, I think as high as $75,000. So with that, if I wanted to add value and show that I've worked with Tony Robbins' organization, what I would do is get the connections and say, hey, I want to give my time and my service to the Tony Robbins organization in exchange for a testimonial or the permission to say, I have worked with this person. Now, you've probably seen this on websites, like people use like logos, like here are our client base, hired by, results, partnered with, stuff like that. That is called borrowed credibility. Okay, that's called borrowed credibility. And so what you're doing is you're showing the next customer that you have worked with these kind of brands. You have worked with these kind of companies. You have already done business with. You've already added value. You're already trusted by this other company who's pretty much well known by the next one, pretty much well known in the industry. So you could do this with any type of organization, not just, personal development. You can do this with many kinds of organizations, anything actually. But the goal is to exchange what you're great at for a testimonial or the permission to use their logo and their information, like a case study. Okay. When you get that agreement, now you just expand yourself to more opportunity. Okay. So what I was telling my buddy, the same thing. I mean, he's a great speaker, great trainer, amazing storyteller, phenomenal storyteller. I mean, I've never seen people, let me tell you something. I've been to many of his trainings. I've never seen people not go to the washroom in 3 hours, like to go, relieve themselves and use the washroom. They just sit and listen, and he captures their attention. He does it so well, it's shocking. And I even heard like attendees sometimes say, can we take a break? I really need to use the washroom. Like people didn't want to miss it. Sometimes people would be like kind of getting up, standing at the back of the room. They want to go get to the washroom, but they don't want to miss anything. That's how good at storytelling he is. And I'll never forget the time I was sitting, we were training a fish company. Okay. We were training all these salespeople for a fish organization, a fishery. And I'll never forget, I had my own epiphany in that room because let me tell you something. I've trained thousands and thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs, and I did it continually for years. I remember there was a time, 2 years of my life, where I was training 3 times a week, each day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a day. It was exhausting, and I would go from city to city, hotel to hotel. But I would follow a presentation. I'd followed like a pre-planned presentation. I would never like deviate from that presentation. It was important. Actually, you had to follow the script. And what I noticed and what I learned from Chris that day, my buddy Chris, is the power of storytelling and how to capture an audience. And I remember I was next up to speak in the next hour, and I'm listening to him, and I said, you know what? I'm going to change my presentation. I'm going to change the way I deliver value to this audience. So I changed my slides. I added a story, added 2 stories. And let me tell you, after I was done, I got so many people. I think it was like a group of 50 people. Let's just say 10 people coming up to me afterwards saying, that was incredible. Wow, that was, wow. Like, they were just so shocked. And they said, that was a very valuable lesson. That was an amazing story. And it wasn't even like directly my story, but it was a situation that happened that had value to them in that moment, in that time. So that's the power of storytelling. And I know I've gone off a little beaten road here with that, but my point is, I was telling my buddy that you have the power of powerful storytelling, and people need to know that. And now you can teach that in multiple ways. You can go into the field, you can teach sales training, you can teach storytelling. Now for you, It's going to be, what are you great at? That when you give that value to someone, they can say, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing. This is what we need, right? And now in exchange, so what I was telling my buddy Chris, I said, listen, you give that value for free. Your sales training, your storytelling, you give that value for free in exchange for what I mentioned earlier, permission to use the logo, maybe as a case study, and you have them cover your accommodation if you're traveling, or the hotel and food, and that's the exchange, but you don't charge for your services. And it's the same for you. If you're a coach, what you do is you give your service for free, okay? And you transform and you wow that client and you give them the best you can in exchange for the case study or the logo permission, whatever it is. Because now, after you have that testimonial or case study, what you do is you use that in your next presentation or your presentation material, your website. You use it in your next conversation, maybe your next strategy session with a client, and say, yes, I've worked with this organization. I've worked with this company, this person. Now it's bringing up your credibility. And most of the time when you do this right, when you do it well, the new client that you're enrolling, that's coming into to be a customer for you, is going to say like something like, wow. They're going to be impressed. They're going to be like, wow, you worked with them? Wow, that's pretty impressive, right? So that's called borrowing their credibility. It's part of it. There's different ways you can borrow credibility, but that's definitely a great way to build your authority in the marketplace. Let people know, other people know that you are, you have a case study, you help people get results, you've helped someone else similar to them, and now you are displaying that and saying, hey, I can do this for you too, right? So now they feel more comfortable because there's, let's say, company or social proof. And that's really what you want in your business. You want company or social proof to show, company or personal social proof to show that, hey, I've done this for other people. And you can demonstrate that and say, yeah, other people have trusted me. Other people have hired me. Other people I've gotten the results for other people. Okay. When you do those things, you will get more clients, more trust, and you will build your brand. You'll actually expand your brand even more. That's it. That's all I have for you today. So I know that was a combination of a few stories, but the most important part about what I'm saying is look at your list. How can you add maybe value to 2 or 3 companies that you can exchange your service, okay, your GOV, in exchange for a case study or testimonial? All right. If this makes sense, let me give this video a like, and you like it, give it a like. If you have any questions, throw it in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.